So for Monday, June 14th to order. Our first item this morning is our delegations. They will be here joining us at 1 o'clock. So item 3.1, we have a late item, a letter from Tara Tom. So if I can get a motion to accept the late item. Councillor Kemp, Councillor Parslow, all in favor? Opposed, carried. And so this item is a request from Parent Grad Committee that Council consider some requests for them in organizing parent-led Grand March. Blair, could you speak to a couple of the requests in here in terms of regards to access to the soccer fields, and they're asking for the barricades to close 122nd at the soccer park? Sorry, let me... sorry, I don't have... There.
All right, there we go. Well, thank you, Your Worship, and good morning, everyone. So we've had a request. It is a late request that came in last week with regard to the grad class. There are a number of events they're hosting. They are hosting one at Mile Zero Park. They will be going there. They will be doing follow-up pictures at Newbie Park. And this is also, I guess, a red carpet, similar to the red carpet that we've seen in the past. They would like to access from the south side of the soccer diamonds and baseball diamonds. They would approach there. The grads would get out, walk in front of the car, as I understand it, go to the north end, at which time they would re-engage in the car and carry on their way. They have a number of requests there. One is the closing of 122nd. That is a bit of a concern for us. The pool is open that evening. I think most of you would know that it's utilized as a parking area as well. Not as big a concern for myself with the large trucks that are there. But the key issue here is I know that they've been working with Shantae and her group. We are waiting to see the response from Northern Health. They have to have a COVID plan in place. Now, a lot of that can change. What is unique, this is for this Wednesday. I know that the groups have been working hard to make this graduation something for the kids. That's really what it's about. I guess you shouldn't call them kids when they're about to graduate high school, but we are really waiting, and it is depending on Northern Health. If they have the go-ahead, I think we can accommodate this, should council wish to. But Shantae, do you have anything to add to the request? I know your group is working with Tara quite closely.
Yeah, we spoke to Tara on Thursday, and she was quite quick to get the grant application and the road closure in, so thanks to her, that was fast. One of the areas that we talked to was there is also adult ball that is on Wednesday evening. We did talk to Dave Misey, and he did say that they would look at moving to Poos if this did happen. They would move the two games from 7 and 8:30. So again, just like Blair had said, is that we need to wait to figure out what Northern Health said, and it is, and also Dr. Bronny, things can change on Tuesday as well. So I think that's all that I have. Thanks. I should have said through your worship, sorry.
Thank you. So the issue then just is that barricading the west end of 122nd Avenue at the Encana Event Center, that's the corner there?
Yes.
Yeah. And, okay, so we got the two requests then to barricade it and to be able to use the soccer park for that purpose.
Correct.
Okay. Council? Councillor Dober?
Just one quick question. Will it be like closed off from the event center over to kind of like where Fix is? Like there'll still be access into those hotels?
As far as I know, yes, there would have to be. We couldn't block access to the hotels. The issue would be a lot of people use that road in accessing the swimming pool for public swimming. It can be accommodated through the access off of the highway, though, at the lights where you turn in and come down.
Can you put a sign like on the barricade saying local traffic only like they do on a street so that people still going to the pool can use it?
We can certainly do that if that was the wish of council. All right.
I'll make a motion to, I guess, to accept this letter, and as long as, you know, Northern Health has passed everything, that I'm okay with accommodating the grads.
So we will allow the access to the park and close the 122nd east west entrance. I've moved. Second, Councillor Parslow. Next up, Councillor Parslow. Go ahead.
Well, I may have a conflict being a grandfather of a grad, but you know, I think anything we can do. I mean, this is a big event for so many people, and I think it's. We've had other large events in this town spring up, and I've been asked why they occurred and certain things to do with Grad can't. So I want us to do everything we can to make this happen, as long as we conform to the safety requirements.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. No, it's nice to see the parents have got together to do something, but I just wanted to put out there, in normal circumstances, we do barricade this street, and they actually run from the soccer pitches to the Encana Event Center for the red carpet. So that's what we've done in the past. So all we're really doing is flipping the direction, and they're coming through the park. So I'm happy to support
Good.
it.
Thank you. Any further, Councillor Parsley? Or you? Sorry. Anything further, Council? Ready for the question? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So we'll let Tara know. New councillor business. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, this will be. This is an unusual request I'm going to make. But whilst I was in Kelowna, I met with several former residents of Dawson Creek. And discussions occurred around some of the history of Dawson Creek. And everybody was searching for who was mayor in certain periods of time. And there's no place we could find it. And so I was wondering if we could, you know, I've been to other council chambers, and they have a sort of like a plaque and the different mayors and so on. We have the photograph thing, which is fine. But I wondered if we could ask the South Beach Historical Society if they could do something like a chronological history of the mayors and their tenures, and a little bit about each mayor. I'm a keen fan of history, and it was none of us could come up who was the mayor at certain periods of time, right? And so I just thought we should do that, maintain our history and keep it current. And so it's a strange request, but I just thought, yeah, we should do that.
Okay. Brenda?
Through your worship, so this is a request to the Historical Society or to city
South Beach
staff?
The Historical Society. They're the keeper of our archives and stuff, and maybe they would do that.
Okay. Now, is this a notice of motion?
Yes, this would be a notice of motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we'll take that then, Council, for motion to deal under our, further on. You moved by Councillor Parslow, second, Councillor Kemp. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Anything further, Councillor Parslow?
No.
Thank you. Councillor Dober. No, Councillor Wilbur, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Dolber. No. That's good. We take rounds. I know the CAO is going to talk about it a little bit later in the agenda on recycling, but I just want to say thank you to some people who have been up at 6:30 in the morning, have diligently checked every bin. So thank you to Tara, Cameron, Thomas, Sarah, Morgan, and Nolan for doing that. And to those citizens that were shocked, yes, that is me under the green ball cap. So I've been out there with them, and they've been doing a great job. And I will do my due diligence and be out there for every week of recycling to help them out where I can. But also thank you to bylaw at the city, to Jason, who drives the truck for Canada Waste Management, and to DC Recycling. So we have a system down, and I just wanted to put the only warning that the community is going to get. If your bin is turned and you rip the tag off and turn it back, too bad, so sad. Jason's already been texted, and he will drive right by your house. So we have a new system in place, and we're sticking to it, and we plan on cleaning up the recycling. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Great job. Thank you so much, and thank you to the Trash Pandas for moving forward and helping us with this. And as you say, Blair's going to talk about it later in the agenda. Thank you for that. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just never know. Thank you. I just wanted to make note of the fact that I had the pleasure to attend the annual general meeting for the Dawson Creek and District Chamber of Commerce about a week and a half back. I wanted to congratulate them on a successful year, and I will provide to staff the agenda and report if anyone's interested in seeing it. And thank you to the outgoing directors, and welcome to the incoming directors.
Thank you, and thank you for attending. Anyone? Councillor Dober.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just had a question maybe towards Kevin. I just have noticed those on 15th Street, the street lights. I've noticed it for a while, but they're all at different heights. And then when I was driving by the new road on the hospital the other day, I noticed those were all like transparent and looked nice. So I always just assumed there was something else getting done. So I was just wondering what the plan was with those, and looks like a deficiency, but.
Morning, through Your Worship. My understanding with 15th Street is the street lights were put in a little bit ahead of the curb and stuff, so the finished elevation may have not been apparent to the individuals putting it in. So yes, I took a look on Friday, and you can see that a number of those are varying elevations. The specification is that it should be 6 inches from finished grade is where the base of that light standard should be. That ensures that you can get access to the bolts and it doesn't come in contact with the soil. Anyways, so we're reaching out to the contractor and, you know, from a deficiency standpoint to see what they can do if there's a relatively easy fix.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll follow up.
Thank you. Anything further?
I just had one other thing. I just had a message from Terry this morning about the Dawson Creek Volleyball Club, the U15. Their online auction is closing tomorrow morning, so I just wanted to mention that out to anybody that's watching, that it's a great organization and great for those girls they're planning a trip to Hawaii, so it closes tomorrow morning at 10 a.m., so just wanted to bring that up.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything further, Council? Thank you, everybody. Item 5 is the adoption of our minutes. So the minutes of our regular meeting of City Council for May 31st for adoption. Councillor Javetkov, Councillor Wilbur. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising out of the minutes for anyone? Correspondence is item 7. 7.1, we have an email from Suzanne Garrett, the Corporate Service Coordinator for the Peace River Regional District, regarding the proposed amendment to the Electoral Boundaries Commission Amendment Act. And this has gained a little bit of attention, certainly provincially and in our region, as a result of some of what those proposed changes are. We brought it forward for Council, and I guess our perhaps request or suggestion would be we provide some response to the province as it relates to the proposed changes and the potential impacts to these more rural and less populated areas that may result in potentially reduced representation. And I don't know if Council have had a chance to read it and would want to provide some response or input into this proposed changes. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Your Worship. I read it and I just needed some clarification maybe on exactly what it's meaning, because I was just a little confused about what the whole
Sure.
thing is. So if you or somebody could give a little clarification.
Blair?
All right, through you, Your Worship, and thank you for the question. So they are mandated, the Electoral Commission, to look at the ridings, the representation. It's based, one of the key factors is by population, but I think having said that, I think it's fair to say on this side of the Rocky Mountains, we probably have 65,000 people in a good-sized portion of the entire province. The previous commission to the one now doing its work enshrined in legislation that there were a number of ridings that would be maintained with representation of MLAs in those ridings, regardless of the population density of that riding. And it has to do with the remoteness. It is traditionally rural. For whatever reason, the government has removed that in this in the legislation, and the Electoral Boundaries Commission is now going to host their hearings. There will be availability for public input, but there is concern, and there always has been, not just this review, but prior to enshrining in legislation that Peace River South, there's a number of areas that would maintain an MLA, that we could possibly go to one MLA. I'll speak from history. It would be virtually impossible to serve the general public that you represent if we had one MLA in this riding. So it's certainly a concern from the perspective of somebody who served in that capacity, and beyond me as to why the government would have excluded the work that was done previously to ensure that that representation was there for the rural communities.
So this would mean they would gain another seat in somewhere else. They could potentially eliminate one up here and gain one somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm not in a position to speak politically on this. So
I think we should write a letter, not, opposed to this. Seems like it could impact our area and our future quite a bit.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'm similarly concerned. Obviously, you want to give the government the benefit of the doubt that they wouldn't, undermine the representation of the peace. But thinking of, within this riding or our neighbor to the north, there's a 5-hour drive, it's quite a drive between Fort Nelson and Fort St. John, and they all share the same MLA. Just one quick question, and I'm on board with Councillor Dober. If we need to support this through a similar letter, that's fine. I'm just wondering, on this letter, it was CC's MP Zimmer on it, or is that out of a request for him to provide a similar letter, or is there a reason the MLA wasn't? Just on the RD letter, it says at the bottom, CC Mr. Bob Zimmer, MP for Prince George, Peace River North, Northern Rockies. And I'm just curious if anybody knew why the MP was included and not the MLA, since it's about a provincial boundary issue.
I think the request was that we would include, I think the MLAs have been vocal about it. I can't answer the question why MP Zimmer was included on this letter to the municipalities.
Okay. Well, I'm fine with if they think it would aid in bringing the issue to light and making sure it stays in the public eye, so that we don't end up with one MLA for a region the size of France. I'm okay with that. So I don't know if I need to do it by way of motion to grant the request of the. Or is this a request from the regional board, or is this just?
So no, the regional board have passed this resolution, and so we brought it forward. And I think my request would be to council that we should send a letter, also expressing our concern to the premier and to the minister and the province.
Okay, I so moved that we provide a similar letter expressing those concerns.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Dober. Councillor Parslow.
Yes, so I am in a political position, so I can say what I think a little more freely. But the word, gerrymandering comes to mind. I wonder if we'd have the same decision if this was an NDP seat. I can't help but think that. But is there any other rural area that's been stripped of its or proposed that they be stripped of representation? I'm thinking, and you can help me, I'm sure, Atlin. Frank Calder was MLA for the Atlin area. But Atlin's just a little hamlet, right? Is the Northwest losing some representation?
Right now, there has been no decision made. So the Boundaries Commission is an independent commission that looks after this. The Northwest does look after Atland, if memory serves me correct, versus the Fort St. John MLA, or Fort St. John North Peace.
Yes.
But the review that is about to take place, there are a number of ridings that could potentially be impacted, not just Peace River North and Peace River South. There are other rural ridings, whether it be Kootenays, I can't list them off right now, but there is a significant number that have the potential if you look at it strictly on representation by population, could be downgraded from, we'll say, 2 MLAs, 3 MLAs serving a large region down to 1 or a lesser number. So that is the work. I would suggest as well, although this letter has been put forward to the Premier and Minister Eby, I believe, the Boundaries Commission will be, and I don't believe I've seen a schedule yet established to go out and hear from the public. I would encourage Mayor and Council to participate in that as well. For sure. It'll be important.
Well, if it is truly an independent commission, I retract my comment about gerrymandering then. There's no political representation on that commission, correct?
They are independent,
Okay.
yes, by legislation.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, we have an email from Brian Mitchell, Land and Resource Specialist on the Caribou Recovery Program. And this is further in regards to the draft winter motorized recreation management plan in the South Peace. And we brought this forward at the last meeting where the province has now presented the motorized recreation management plan for the South Peace. And they're seeking input from the public till the end of June, at which time they'll move forward with those recommendations through that partnership agreement with the federal government, the provincial government, and the Soto West Moberly. I don't think there's anything further we need to do with this at this point. It's moving forward, and I don't know that there was a request for this. Councillor Parslow.
I just have a question. Has a similar correspondence gone to various interest groups in the area, like the, let's say the, I forgot the name of the snowmobile group, as an example?
They were all very much engaged in over the last year and plus in regards to the working group on the winter motorized recreation management plan, and certainly the I know Aaron from Coeur d'Alene's on the Concerned Citizens. So there's been a number of those organizations have been a part of it as well. So.
And so they would have probably...
They would have all seen this and
okay.
received it as well.
Thank you.
So a motion, Blair, go ahead.
Your Worship, there is a request within it that should council, having reviewed the video that they sent out, wish to have a presentation, that availability is there.
Okay.
So.
Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. So, with respect to and I watched the presentation, and I've read the proposed agreement. I guess it's not an agreement anymore, but the proposal. And having touched base with the people involved in the Concerned Caribou and Snowmobile Association who were provided, I don't want to say an opportunity for input. I think that might be generous considering what their feedback on the proposal was. It does appear as though they don't feel as though their time was well spent, given how much of their feedback was reflected in the actual report. But I did want to, and hopefully Blair knows this, someone correct me if I'm wrong, is there still no economic impact analysis on this?
So the province, that's the second phase, and we had a meeting with both the RD as well as the mayors, and that is ongoing. The socioeconomic working group now is formed. I've indicated, I've responded to the province that I want to be a part of that economic development working group to ensure that we have both some input into it as well as monitoring the responses that are provided and ensuring that there's appropriateness around the input that they take. And we had a conference call last week in regards to that with Russ LaRoche, who's the lead on behalf of Forest Lands Natural Resource Operation.
Okay. And the one last note I'd make, and I don't know if it's worth a presentation, but some clarification, both in the presentation attached to this and in the actual proposed document. They repeatedly discuss the goal of restoring caribou, which is wonderful. I don't think anyone disagrees with that. However, they have not articulated what success looks like with respect to that goal. And similarly, they propose no timeline as to when we can ascertain whether this has been successful. So I feel like the presentation was somewhat incomplete insofar as they tell you what they're going to do, but they can't tell you what success looks like or how long it'll take. And similarly, like I said, I'm not sure if it's worth a presentation because I don't imagine they have any more answers, but it would be appreciated for the people whose livelihood may be impacted, for the people whose lifestyle may be impacted. I think that would have been worth putting in there.
So, were you making a motion that you want to have a presentation?
I mean, I'd love nothing more than to have a presentation here, but I don't imagine that presentation is going to result in more information. If our experience in dealing with this issue in the provincial government up to this point is any indication, I'd be very surprised if they showed up with anything else. So, I'm fine.
Councillor Parslow.
Well, I think Councillor Earl has raised a very valid point. I can't conceive of any project not having a desired endpoint. What would success look like? What would be some of the benchmarks that we were that is making progress, or that this isn't a boondoggle, right? So I think we should not give up. I mean, on this, I think we should ask those questions and invite the person to give a presentation and answer some questions, such as Councillor Earl has referenced.
Okay, so you're making a motion
I'd
that
make
we
a
would?
motion,
Thank
yes.
you. So we have a motion that we would request that a presentation be given to council on the winter motorized recreation management plan for the partnership agreement on the Caribou recovery. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl? Discussion? All those
In fairness to the presenter, I would like us to reference, we would like to have some, the presentation also include the success factors, progress mileposts that they might have, and what success would look like.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any further conversation, any further comments, council? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have an email from James McKechnie, principal of the McLeod Lake Elementary School, regarding a request for the city to donate a rain barrel. Blair, do you want to give a little update on this? Because I know you've been doing some work on it late last week.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did have, as a result of this letter, receiving it, I did get information from both Tanya and Cameron Schultz with Legacy. They indicated that they had a number of barrels that they utilize with their car wash, and that they were more than happy to donate those to the McLeod Lake Elementary School if they could find a use for them. Certainly encouraging. I think that speaks to the not just the quality of people, but the businesses we have in our community. James did reach out to me, indicated his thanks, and James is from McLeod Lake, to both Cameron and Tanya, indicating that they would have a use for those barrels that he was so generously donating. But if it was possible to continue with the one rain barrel request for the city of Dawson Creek, he would welcome that as well. We used to supply these. People could purchase them from the city. We do have one that is available, as I understand it, that we can get to McLeod Lake.
So we would do that as
so
by way
wishes.
of a donation?
Yes.
Thank you. Council? Councillor Wilbur?
I will move that we donate a rain barrel to McLeod Lake from the city of Dawson Creek.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Kemp. Discussion? Comments? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have a letter from Maxine Campbell, who's the club administrator and chair of the Rotary Club. And they made a request to name some parkland at 1901 98th Avenue as a continuation of the park, the walking trail, the Ken Haverland Park. And we do have the letter and information attached to our agenda that this is, we do have a park and naming recognition policy for naming it. And can I just, if I can ask administration, that committee that we have or would have is currently not an active committee. We don't have those representations now current. Am I correct in that?
Yes, Your Worship, we would have to appoint a new committee, I believe, for that.
Okay. So I think that would be our first step if we're going to, because we do have a policy of a park dedication policy. It's completely within those guidelines that we have. And so Councillor Javetkov?
So I'll make a motion that we approve the request, and I'll speak to it if we get a seconder.
Approve the request that we name the park after Ken Haverland?
Yes.
So, okay, thank you. Second? Councillor Parslow, go ahead.
So this chunk of land was purchased actually by Rotary back about 17 years ago. The trail, the walking path, was extended from 17th Street out to Rotary Lake for basically accessibility for families and kids. And part of it went through private property. So in the interest of protecting the trail for the long term, and you know, there were discussions in the Rotary Club about possibly developing a little bit of a park or a wildlife viewing area. At that time, Rotary found the owner of the land. He was in Fort St. John, and negotiated with them and raised the money to purchase that piece. So it was subdivided, and then the decision was to dedicate the land to the city for long-term or basically permanent park. And there were discussions at that time for Rotary to actually develop the park, to develop the site into a park, and naming would go along with that. So this is, it's a bit of an anomaly considering the current policy. And it's one thing, you know, that comes up with continuity. And it's bothered me for a long time, continuity issues in the city. How do we keep track of these kind of things? You know, if you don't have somebody that remembers, these things just get lost in the shuffle. So anyways, that's the story on it. I actually happened to be president of Rotary at the time, and I was involved with the city as well. So it was a kind of a dual thing. And the land, it's not suitable for any development. It's well within the floodplain. But there are some values there as far as, you know, public use for bird watching or just resting along the trail. So that's why I would like to see us approve the request and basically comply with the request.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I was just wondering if, so I second this motion, completely support what Councillor Javetkov has said. I note we have two policies, the recognition awards policy where we can name municipal pieces after somebody in recognition of their great contribution to the community. But I was wondering if it's in order for me to make an amendment to the motion and have a preamble that in the motion that Council waive the park dedication policy as an amendment. I think we should do that. And I'm acting on the recognition award policy, but if that would comfort our corporate officer, I'm quite prepared to make that amendment that would read that Council waive the park dedication policy and name this park as per Councillor Javetkov's motion.
Yeah, and the way I understood Councillor Javetkov's motion, it was very clear he was specifically dedicating, or as the request was from the Rotary Club, to specifically name this. So exactly doing that, I don't think that we need to have an amendment to it, because that was the motion that we weren't going to advance with a committee or the policy.
Can I? Yeah.
So
Well,
go
I'm
ahead.
always trying to comfort the corporate officer. So I don't disagree with what you said,
Yeah.
but if it helps Brenda's indigestion.
Brenda?
Yeah, through your worship, it is assumed that that motion would require waiving the recognition awards policy, so
Yeah.
that could be included in the motion without an amendment.
Just included in it without an amendment.
Correct.
So, okay, cool. Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
Yeah, just a comment about Ken Haverland. Ken Haverland, in addition to what he accomplished, in the community and basically in the Peace River area, he was extremely active with Rotary. He was basically on a global level with Rotary, and he was instrumental in a lot of work. And here in town, he was instrumental in starting 2 additional clubs, one in Chetwynd and the Sunrise Club here during his time. So, it seems to me it's nice to recognize him with that location.
Thank you.
Your worship.
Councillor, or
Just
sorry, Blair?
a quick update on that. So it says the Ken Haverland Park. There has been discussion, and Councillor Javetkov, you may be able to help me here. It may be the Ken Haverland Nature Park, so just it might be a tweak on the name that's presented in here. I had a discussion with Alex Reshney on the weekend, just so that doesn't throw a curveball. They're looking at what the best naming option is, but it will be after Ken Haverland. And should they land on that post this discussion, I will inform council immediately.
Thank you. Further discussion? Council, you ready for the question? Councillor Parslow, sorry, did you have a?
No, sorry.
All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 7.5, we have a letter from Melanie Moore, Director of Finance at the Ovintiv Event Center and Tourism Dawson Creek, regarding the request to paint a rainbow flag on the apron of the event center leading into the building. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll make a motion that we deny the request, and I'll speak to it if we get a seconder.
Thank you. Second? First, second, Councillor Earl. Go ahead, Councillor Javetkov.
Yeah, when I read this, I just thought back to the money that we spend already with the Encana Center, with the Ovintiv Center now, and to add more expense and long-term maintenance, which is the experience by the crosswalk at the high school, which we have approved, and we will, I think we have agreed to maintain it. But to add another one in this location just doesn't make sense to me, and to add expenses to the expenses that we've already got with the Ovintiv Center, I don't agree with it. I don't see the point.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Dover?
Thank you, Your Worship. When I read through this letter, I didn't, are they requesting us to pay for it? Because I didn't get that out of the letter.
Blair?
Thank you, Your Worship. What I get is, I'm guessing because it isn't included, it would come out of the funding that the Ovintiv Center presently has. So the city of Dawson Creek contributes 1.65 million per year. Where that funding would come from, I'd have to check with them under which line item they would post it on their budget. But I didn't read in their request here that they were donating or raising the funds elsewhere. So I have to assume it comes from within their budget.
So it won't be on top of what we've already.
No.
My thoughts are is that, I know we've had some problems with the one in front of the school and it's been vandalized and there's been some things put on it, but my thoughts are is when that stuff happens is how you curb that, that thought process is you put more of them out there. Like you answer in a different way and because they're getting their way, right? We're not promoting this or helping this and because somebody's vandalized it. Like I just don't believe that's the right approach is just to curb it and not do anymore. I think on anything like that is we got to be leaders and lead and do what's right. And when I see it being vandalized and things drawn on it, my first thought is let's put another one up. Like let's we're all equal in this world, and I think it's important that we promote that and we stand behind it. So I'm for putting it there. I would like to know more what the cost is and if it's coming out of money we've already donated or given to the event center. I would be for it if they're doing it.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I was happy to second Councillor Javetkov's motion out of professional courtesy. I would hope someone would give me the opportunity to speak to my motion under the same circumstances. But I do happen to agree with Councillor Dober. I think given the amount of ire that resulted in last year, I have no appetite to retreat on the matter or find a happy middle ground. I don't think you don't have to meet someone halfway if they're not half right and you're not half wrong. And I'm of the mind on this case. With respect to the resourcing for painting it, we are contractually obligated to provide the event center with a $1.65 million subsidy every year, as we have been, as we have learned throughout this pandemic. That is pretty well etched in stone for the time being. So how they allocate those resources is largely up to them, knowing something about the operations of the facility. And right now, it doesn't. I'd imagine they have a bit of idle time on their hands before things ramp up. I think their operations staff is perfectly capable of ripping that one out fairly quickly. So I don't imagine the additional cost to the city. Well, there's not going to be an additional cost above the 1.65 million. But I don't imagine the event center's budget changing dramatically as a result of if we were to deny this request.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
So I think it's naive to think that the taxpayers of Dawson Creek will not be required to pay for this thing. That's where the money comes from. There is no other pot of money. It comes from the taxpayers of Dawson Creek. As far as damage, we're not talking about damage. It may be put in and it may never be damaged, but it does wear out every year. You can see every other crosswalk in town has to be maintained annually. That's another annual cost. Now, if the Ovintiv Center staff had the right to do whatever, to spend the money on whatever they want, then why are they asking now to do this job for permission from mayor and council? That doesn't make sense. The other thing is there are other ways of dealing with this issue. They've got an electric sign out on the highway. They could develop a flag the modern current flag and display it there. To me, there's no need for the taxpayers of Dawson Creek to fund this project when there are, people sending letters to us to complain about the $2 or $1 a month for a hard copy water bill. There's people that are concerned about taxes. So anyways, I really don't feel that we need to spend the money on that, whether it goes through the Inventive Center or whatever. It's still taxpayers' money, and there's other ways to deal with it.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
Thank you. Yeah, I've read through this letter a few times now, and then I've read it again while people are talking, and nowhere in here are they asking for funding. They're asking for permission to put it in place. So good on them. So if their diversity, equity, and inclusion committee would like permission to put this flag there, I fully support them. And I agree with Councillor Dober. If you didn't like the first one, well, then we put more in place, and we support those who are going to do it. So we're either inclusive or we're not. And they haven't asked for funding. They're only asking permission, and I'm happy to support them.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I just had one question. I was just a little confused why this was brought to council, because it's not asking for funding. They're asking for permission. Is that a policy we have that we don't, we can't leave it to the city staff to make this decision? It's nice to know about it for sure, and I'm not saying I don't want to know about it, but it seems like all they're asking for is permission, and the funds are already there. It's not costing our taxpayers any more money than we're already committed to right now. So I'm just wondering, why, that would be brought to council to approve. I know it's city property, but.
Blair?
Through you, your worship. Although the event center is owned by the city of Dawson Creek, it's operated by contract by Spectra Venue Management. They cannot arbitrarily do capital works on that building without the approval of mayor and council under the contract that presently exists. That's why the request would be before mayor and council today.
Okay, so thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion, Councillor Parslow?
So I'm just responding to staff's last comment. Is painting a capital project?
Blair?
Yes, painting falls under capital. I don't believe it's going to fall under maintenance. This is a new project, so if they were to come and want to paint the building a wild color, they're not doing that without approval of mayor and council. This is property owned. I didn't write the contract. I encourage everybody to have a look at it, but it is in there that approval would be required by the ownership, which is the city of Dawson Creek.
Approval for painting? That's
As I understand it, yes.
If I can just speak to that further. See, I thought capital projects have a life expectancy of a certain time, and this will certainly have to be painted every year. So that's where I'm coming from in that regard. But we have a Inventive can, for instance, under our contract, and even name parts of the building without any reference to the council. That's how the Mercer building was named. It was a shot that they could do that, but when previous CAO looked into it, it was within the contract that they can. So the Co-op Mercer Hall is the naming of that was entirely Inventive. So I'm just questioning the use of the word capital here, and think it's a different definition than staff, I guess.
Blair?
All right. Thank you, your worship. And through to Councillor Parslow, naming rights is written in there that they have that ability.
Yes.
That is the difference on that. This is a new request. This is not a maintenance request. So my interpretation of a new sidewalk, for example, or new is capital. Regardless whether it was capital or where it was coming from, they would need the approval of mayor and council. And I would suggest that's the right move. Although we have an operator, professional courtesy tells me before you alter somebody's building that you don't own but only operate, you would get their approval for it. So,
Okay, so Councillor Javetkov, we're going to...
Just a last
This will be the
question.
last round. We've had
Clarification.
lots of discussion.
Just last clarification on the spending. Are they funding that out of Ovintiv's money, or does it come from taxpayers' money?
Your Worship, the $1.65 million we grant to Spectra Venue Management as a fee for service for their operation of the facility is put in with their funding as well. So I couldn't tell you if it's a portion of the city's $1.65 million or a portion of Ovintiv's contribution to the budget, but it will, unless something changes from this discussion, my understanding with what I've read in here is they're prepared to do this, they're asking permission. I have no option but to assume it will come from Ovintiv's budget. So that's...
Councillor Dober, one last time.
Okay, I'll be quick, sorry. I just wanted to clarify one thing that Councillor Parslow said just about capital improvements. Capital improvements are only a one-time thing, and after that, each year, it's not a capital improvement to be approved, it's a repair or a maintenance. You can only capital expense something once, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. So the request is that council will grant them permission for the, is denying the request for painting of the crosswalk. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's defeated. Councillor Wilbur?
I would like to move that we grant the request for the DEI Committee of Spectra to paint a rainbow flag at the entrance of the county, or of the Oventive Event Center.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp? Discussion? Councillor Dober?
Do we need to say on that it's included in the grant that we've given them, that it's not, we're not approving it as an extra expense, or is this, no?
Blair?
Through you, Your Worship. No, there is no request here for extra funding. Again, you can only assume when it's not, and it's a dangerous thing to do, but how they fund it will be their decision once approval is granted, should it pass here today.
Thank you. You know, and I just want to add one piece to this, and certainly the financial operations that the city provides in terms of the resources to operate the Ovintiv Event Center has been one that's been in place for a number of years. We talk about the 1.65 or 1.5, but also we also have on an annual basis, and we have had, I think with the exception of 1 year and 2020 being the anomaly, is any additional revenue over top of what's normally comes through, and that surplus comes back into the city as well. And so there is it's a complex, complicated operation that we provide, that the residents of Dawson Creek and region voted for by referendum. We operate it, and to me, it is complex, and we have a very significant operation that provides that into our region. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Yeah, it's carried. Councillor Javetkov opposed. Will record. Thank you for that. Reports 8.1. We have a report number 21089 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding housing opportunities for the old Grandview School property at 95th Avenue. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you. I'd like to move the recommendation, the report number 21-089 from the General Manager of Development Services regarding housing opportunities for Old Grandview School property, 1100 95th Avenue, be received. Further, that Council direct staff to arrange a virtual meeting with BC Housing representatives to discuss planning process and development opportunities for 1100 95th Avenue.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Earl. Discussion. Councillor Javetkov, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, during the discussions, will the report that we received on housing be considered in those in the discussions to try and determine what the priorities are in that?
Kevin?
Yeah, through your worship, Yeah, definitely. In speaking with the representatives, the fact that we've done that housing needs report is a key piece to moving forward. Obviously, there's some opportunities, as I indicated in the report, about the women fleeing violence. Like, those grant opportunities exist now, and we could move on that. The reason I wanted to bring it to council, and the reason I felt it was important that we, maybe have a presentation, is that this is a large site, and there's multiple opportunities within that site. It's not, if it was just one lot, we could look at, something simple, but because it's likely to be a combined use, combined developments, it's gonna take some pre-planning, and I just wanna make sure we're all on the right page. We don't go too far down a road to find out that we're not maybe giving, BC Housing what they need. So I just thought it'd be a great opportunity for council to ask those questions.
Go ahead.
Just one more comment. When we provided the land for Rotary Manor, I think it was about 15-acre parcel, and they didn't need it all, but because, for future development and, for the same type of services, we thought that they should control it. They should control the whole parcel, and it seems to me that, if BC Housing are supplying the money to develop these, social housing and all that, it may be, an idea to give them control of the whole property for longer-term planning, eh? So that was just a comment.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. I just have a question. This is kind of all new to me, but when we, if we do something with BC Housing, do we, give them the land, or is there is it sold to them, or, I'm obviously in return they're building things, but I was curious.
Yeah, so through your worship, it appears there's a couple different scenarios. Some projects they own and bring in a third party to operate. Others, they just simply give grants and a third party owns and operates. So there's different scenarios. And again, it depends on the type of housing and the type of project. So again, I think that's why it would be great to have them available and have council be able to ask those types of questions, because I think there is a lot of different opportunities.
Okay. And then the other piece, we had that other park up by where Blair lives, not to give that away to everybody, but was that land, and then that was developed into housing, was that, did the city subdivide that and sell the lots off, or was that?
No, that was privately.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. And to Kevin's point, and Darcy kind of touched on it as well, this is, as both in my involvement on the advisory committee for Niiginaw Place and just in general, as I learn more, it seems like this is a pretty big, BC Housing has its finger in a number of pies. And if we're going to get a presentation from them, one aspect I would appreciate deeper insight into is with respect to what their existing inventory of units are in this town currently looks like, and whether it's they have some vacancies, whether they have got wait lists, what have you. I mean, we've got the housing needs study, but I would be curious to see how that tracks against what they're currently doing and what we're seeking. Just because I find as we delve deeper into this, getting a fulsome picture of what currently exists is going to be key in deciding how to best move forward. So if that is available, it's something I would very much appreciate.
Yeah, so the housing report we received and have just completed is the first step for us in moving forward with the developing that long-term strategy for housing for our community. And I think, as Councillor Javetkov had mentioned, one of the things now is seniors housing. Obviously, is to me probably the single largest issue that I think we face. In my discussions with BC Housing, has been the envelopes of funding that become available from the province that say and are what drive what they can start to involve in. And today there is funding available for women's housing initiatives, and so that's why this is coming forward. And the seniors one will come next year, the year after, which gives us the opportunity to start to put, I think, a long-term strategy in place for the Grandview School property to make sure that we can develop something that works for all of those components. And part of that, Councillor Earl, will be to be able to get a little bit of the analysis on the data of what exists today in the community for women's accommodation and shelter and affordable accommodation and shelter. And then also the other component then on seniors will be the different stages of housing and accommodation that's required, whether it be independent, assisted, all of those things. And then that involves Northern Health and the province from that perspective, because you start to then move into area of services as well that may be needed or provided. So I think this is just the first step, and because the housing for women's housing today is what's being provided by the province, is why BC Housing are moving in that direction. Blair?
Your Worship, just following up, I think you've covered it well. This property, obviously a very valuable piece of property to the city of Dawson Creek. I think it is in a very good location. I would see it as a mix. The question was, would they own it? Would somebody else own it, for example? They may own a portion of it, but I could see the option, as the mayor just said, for social housing, seniors housing, aging in place seniors housing, possibly some market housing. And as that plan develops for that piece of property, then there may be, and I'm quite confident in this, the requirement to subdivide off portions so that you, instead of dealing with one large parcel, you have independent parcels based on the need and what was agreed to by mayor and council as this project is defined and moved forward. So.
Thank you. Any further comments? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.2, we have report number 21086 from the facilities manager regarding spraying of dandelions in city parks. Councillor Parslow?
I move that report 21086 from the facilities manager, respraying of dandelions in city parks, be received. Further, the council provides staff with further direction.
Do you have second? Councillor Wilbur, discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Well, I just would like to get this thing discussed, and so I'm making this motion.
Perfect.
And I'm quite prepared to make another motion that gives staff direction.
Okay. Councillor Javeka?
Yeah, after reading the report, I think from my opinion, we should adopt the option of not proceeding any further with this. I've had some discussion with friends of mine that like dandelions. Not so much that they like dandelions, but they're concerned about sprays and they're concerned about costs. So that would be my position.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I tend to agree with Councillor Javetkov. For the 4 to 6 weeks a year, we have to contend with dandelions. I don't know if getting rid of them is worth the additional cost and potential impact to, spraying and whatnot. I just actually had a question to Brenda. Given what Councillor Parslow just did with the recommendation to provide staff with further direction, did we just inadvertently figure out an end run around not moving things for discussion?
No.
Yeah, through your worship, it seems that way.
That's all I wanted to note. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. The dandelion season is pretty much over already, and I wouldn't think it would make sense to do this, and I know what they do for the environment and the bees and stuff, so it seems like we're already past the stage, so.
So can we provide, can we have a motion then to provide to administration?
I would make a motion that we leave
Excuse
things how
me,
they
through
are.
your
and
worship?
not-
We have a motion to
not
vote
approve
on.
the spending.
Oh, sorry, we do have a motion on we got to vote on first. Yeah, yeah. We're providing direction.
It can be looked bad, hey?
All right, so, I think we've had sufficient discussion that council's had an opportunity. So I'll call a question on the motion, and then we will provide the direction. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Dober, go ahead.
I'll just make a motion to, I guess, it's not really a request, but decline the request on spending the funds to spray for dandelions.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp. Discussion, go ahead, Councillor Javetkov.
So just another continuity issue. It seems to me back 20 years ago, there was a motion to declare the dandelion the official flower of Dawson Creek. And I just wonder if that's still in.
That's the official flower over there.
What is that?
I've forgotten what it's called.
Goldenrod?
Pardon?
The goldenrod.
No. Oh, goldenrod. No, this was the official flower.
No, that is the.
And I can remember there was a Volkswagen dressed up as a dandelion thing driving around in the parade and stuff. So anyways, it was just a continuity thing that I was wondering about if we actually have an official flower and if it's the dandelion.
Thank you. Councillor Wilbur?
The official flower is the goldenrod. That's the picture on the wall. And the VW bug was covered in daisies, and I know because I'm the one who deckled the car. So there you go.
Thank you. Councillor Earl, you had any follow-up?
No, I'm
you.
all good.
Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 8.3, we have report number 21092 from the corporate officer regarding a long-term contract policy. Councillor Wilbur?
I will move recommendation that report number 21-091 from the corporate officer regarding long-term contract policy be received. Further, that the policy attached to this report be approved pending a 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Kemp, discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Parslow.
Well, I am pleased to see this before council. I appreciate what's the summary that's been given in the report, and particularly the last bullet, which reads the concurrence of the city solicitor is required on the award of any contract which has a total price in excess of 500,000. I like that as well. But one thing that I can't find here that I'm sure it's in there, that I wanted to make sure that in all instances, the corporate officer has a direct role in this. And please bear with me, I can't find any reference to that.
Blair?
Through you, Your Worship, it is the intent, and I will look to our corporate officer if she wants to speak further to this, but all documents of this nature have in the past, short of one that I'm aware of, go through the corporate officer for their review. That is standard practice in the municipal world in which we operate in, and for some reason there was a contract previously that wasn't handled that way. But I would look to the corporate officer, see if you have anything to add, Brenda.
Yes, through your worship, the bid committee includes the CAO, the CFO, department head whose budget will be funding the award, and the corporate officer, and if required, the city solicitor.
I didn't hear the
would
mayor in any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any further comments? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 8.4, we have report number 21088 from the corporate officer regarding letter of support policy. This come back from our last council meeting. Councillor Kemp?
I'll move the report recommendation that report number 21-08 from the corporate officer regarding letters of support NDIT grants policy be received. Further, that the letters of support NDIT grants policy attached to this report be approved pending the required 30-day review period.
Thank you. Second? Councillor Dober? Discussion? Great catch, I think, Councillor Javetkov, and I think it just simplifies, eases the process for both our user groups and our staff, and I think it's really worthwhile. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.5, we have report number 21070 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding the water shutoff policy. Councillor Javetkov, go ahead.
I move that report number 21-070 from the Chief Financial Officer water shutoff policy be received. Further, that the policy attached to this report be approved pending the required 30-day review.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Kemp. Discussion? Comments? Blair?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Council. So this has been an issue for some time in the city. We have a number of outstanding accounts, and we aren't speaking about a month overdue or 2 months, in some cases years overdue. The policy will capture, right now there is $843,000 in outstanding water payments due to the city that are past due. So the $1,500, although it may seem high to some and low to others based on your use, this policy will capture 74% of that, or $627,000. There is no doubt some people are going to be impacted by this, and you may hear about it, but moving forward, I think that the position, this is a self-liquidating utility, and for every person that doesn't pay their bill, the person that is paying their bill is subsidizing that person. So it'll be interesting moving forward, but there are a good number of people out there that owe many, 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 many thousands of dollars on their water utility. So.
Thank you. Councillor Javetkov, did you have a follow-up on when you made the motion? No, thank you. Councillor Dober?
Thank you, Worship. Blair, is that 843? Is that over like a span? That's obviously not, I hope it's not just this year.
That is accumulated,
So
not just this year.
So when if this does get approved, for those people that are, have outstanding, does their water get shut off the next day, or is this just a new policy moving forward?
No, this is a new policy that will first go out for review. There are timelines laid out in the policy as far as, right now, from the first day you use your water, you use it for 60 days, your water. Our billing period is every second month, so then a bill goes out. You have 30 days in which to pay that.
Yeah.
So then you're at 90 days. Following that, we would notify somebody if they are over the 1,500 versus somebody just away on holidays and missed maybe a payment. The process is laid out that you would get 14-day notice, a following 14-day notice, then your water would be shut off within 30 days following that. So.
And are we allowed to shut the water?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
This has been legally checked. Much of the time, it reverts to your taxes and your tax notice. The challenge you have is the ability within mobile homes, for example, to recover those within a tax sale. The city of Dawson Creek, it would be more costly to recover it through a tax sale than it would, say, go to small claims court. There's some number of options, but the policy lays out the direction quite clearly on how we would go about this. There are also issues for medical use if people are strapped. There is the ability to work with the city for payment options as well. But yeah, I think it's a good policy and will work well for the city.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship, and I was just going to mention many of the points Blair just made. I'm very impressed with as the procedure lays out steps for people to bring their account back into good standing, and I'd point out this policy is not intended to needlessly or punitively punish or penalize people that maybe had a temporary disruption in income and fell behind. There are many steps in there or opportunities for them to catch up in a timely and reasonable fashion. We've got a very small percentage of people who have taken advantage of, I guess, what they deem a loophole in the city's ability to collect. When you see that there are 93 customers with a balance outstanding totaling $626,000, that is staggering. So kudos to staff on formulating this policy. I do anticipate there might be a bit of pushback, but I think it's very reasonable, and for most people who are making an honest effort to stay up to date with their utility bills, it shouldn't be that much of a problem.
Thank you. Further discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 9 is bylaws, and 9.1 is the water rate and regulation amendment bylaw number 4462 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Javetkov, Councillor Parslow, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Any comments? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 9.2, we have report number 21091 from the Development Services Manager regarding zoning amendment bylaw number 2104, bylaw 4507, 2021 for consideration of first and second reading. Councillor Parslow.
I move the report number 21-091 from the Development Services Manager, rezoning amendment 2104, bylaw number 4507, 2021 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 21-04, bylaw number 4507, 2021 to rezone the property at 940 89th Avenue from RS1 to RS2 be given first and second reading.
Thank you. Second. Councillor Javetkov. Discussion? Comments? Councillor Parslow, go ahead.
Well, this is a view of minor adjustment to enable the person who's building a new home there to have a duplex, and I don't see any problem in that.
Thank you. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. That gets us to Mayor's business. I'll give a quick update on a couple of items. We had a call with Minister Osborne and the Deputy Chief Medical Health Officer a week ago Friday. They updated the northern, southern, interior Okanagan and the island mayors in the current COVID-19 protocols and situation. And it really was a focus around and giving the mayors an opportunity to have some update on the current state with the minister as well as the chief medical health officer. I got 3 things out of the call, and it really came from, I think, the premier's announcement when they announced the 4-stage plan to the province for the reopening plan. And we're at that second phase, I think, tomorrow, where they start to loosen the noose on public gathering, et cetera. There was the 3 things that were driving that reopening phase was really around the virus infection rates in our community or region, level of vaccination rates, and the hospitalization rates, and that data would drive the reopening. And they really spoke about that, and there were some concerns raised by some mayors that their community was zero vaccination or zero virus infection rates, and was the province going to start to look at it regionally. And so anyway, it was a discussion that ensued, and we will see tomorrow or later today what that next phase of the reopening looks like and how it starts to unfold. And it's hopefully in a very positive manner that we see the reopening start to move forward. Blair and I met with Jeremy Linklater from the organizer of the Dawson Creek Music Festival, and Jeremy obviously is optimistic about the July 1st outdoor gathering opportunity that may exist to look to the hosting of that music festival in July, and wanted to have a quick discussion with Blair and I about that. Obviously, the protocols around the public health and what his plans are in terms of organizing that will be, and he's working away with Northern Health on that, and we'll be working with our administration in regards to that. But it's very kind of positive to me that Jeremy is really looking forward to trying to get the music festival in whatever form reignited for 2021. Blair and I met with Mona McLean and Brenda Kreitzer from the Step Up and Ride organization. I saw a post that they had indicated that services would be interrupted this summer for Step Up and Ride as a result of funding shortfall. We had a really good discussion with Brenda and Mona about their operation. 2020 has been a really tough year for them in regards to donations and fundraising and funding, and also the added pressures of door-to-door service and both seniors, those with a disability, wheelchair accessible rides, the concern around the lack of that available in the community by others, and just the sheer kind of complexities of services, as well as the interconnection with Northern Health on the the dialysis patients. So they're just a real complex model that they're trying to provide a service for through a really low-cost model for those who are users of it, the students and seniors, et cetera. And so unfortunately this summer they're going to restrict services in the month of August, I think is the plan right now, to provide that services to the community and region. And I was surprised because I didn't realize they even providing services to students out in Devereux, I think, and picking up a student out there. And they're just really driving a service in our community that's so valuable and so necessary. And we really wanted to understand what it is and what they're needing. So we've got their financials. She sent an overview to us, and we'll bring that back to council for just for information. There was a march held, obviously, the week ago Friday night, I think, on the Kamloops residential children component, and it met with a significant response from the community, and obviously, understandably so, with the issue that is in front of us. I want to just mention very quickly that the Nowickan, Bergeron Nowickan Youth Cultural Children's Center has got a provincial display that they're going to kick off starting, I think, on next Sunday. And it really is talking about, it gives the history of residential schools and the 60 Scoop and all of that. And I really encourage, I had a quick look at it when they were setting it up as I was down visiting with Jana. And everyone should take the opportunity to go down. It's one of those things that's put on nationally that Jenna had requested months ago, and so it's really a pertinent, obviously top of mind topic right now, and everyone in the community and region should take advantage of going down to have a look at that and learn a little bit about that history. Blair, Kevin, and I went for a tour with Director Leonard Hebert from the Peace River Regional District Area D, and we wanted to look at three things. We wanted to look at the St. Emile Cemetery out on the banks of the Pouce on Highway 49 that the city of Dawson Creek took over years and years ago and we're still digging into that topic, but it really is in electoral area D as area, and we wanted to have a talk with Leonard about that. And also we looked at the truck fill stations as well as the raw water line out to on the Old Heart to the Kiskatnaw. And Leonard's important. He's landlocks us with his area, and it's really important for us to have that working relationship with the electoral area director. It was very worthwhile. So I'll stop there. Anybody have any questions, comments? We have TC Energy going to do their delegation presentation at 1 o'clock, and so we'll follow up post that. Chief Administrative Officer, operational update, Blair.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I was going to speak on the recycling program. Councillor Wilbur gave a very good update earlier on in the agenda. Just following up, it seems as though the work that certainly Councillor Wilbur and the Aubert Society on behalf of the city are doing by being out looking into the contamination issue, which is walking in front of the truck, ensuring that there are no contaminants in the recycle bins, has been certainly very helpful. So I want to thank the individuals as well as Councillor Wilbur for taking this on. We still are, we still have contamination. It is somewhat confusing how somebody cannot figure out what is recyclable and what isn't. We are not talking the odd plastic bag going in here. We are talking bags of trash. We are talking needles. We are talking diapers, dog feces. It is staggering, but we will do our best to get this under control. As was spoken about earlier, we continue to work on this. There is a real potential. The city could lose their recycling program, not because of the 97% of the people that abide by it, but by a small percentage of people contaminating this and putting the people at DC Recycling at risk as they have to go through this. So we'll continue to do it and look after it, and hopefully we will get the compliance of people and encourage people to understand the difference between garbage and recycling. So,
Thank you, Blair. Diary? Anything?
nothing new,
No.
Your Worship.
Consent calendar, if I could have a motion to approve consent. Councillor Wilbur, second Councillor Kemp. All in favor? Opposed, carried. Is there anything anybody would like to lift from the consent calendar, any of those items? Strategic priorities? Anything? Nothing new, Blair?
Nothing new, Your Worship.
And media question? So at this point, we will make a motion to recess to our closed, and agenda items 4.1 and 5.1 are dealing with section 90 of the minutes. Agenda items 8.1, 8.2, 8.3 are negotiations and related discussions respecting a proposed provision of municipal services. And agenda item 9.1 and 9.2 under section 91C are labor relations or other employee relations. So if I can have a motion to recess to closed. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor Javetkov. All in favor? Opposed, carried. And so we'll recess and we'll come back in 8 minutes, back into closed. And thank you, everyone. We'll call ourselves back to order and reconvene the open portion of our meeting. Our delegation this afternoon is our friends from TC Energy, and we have Heather DeSarmia from Public Affairs Advisor and Kyle Giddens, our Public Affairs Manager for TC Energy and the Coastal GasLink project. And they're here this afternoon to give us an update on Coastal's 2021 summer construction program. So with that, I'll turn it over to Heather and Kyle. Welcome to you guys. Thank you for joining us, and the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much for having us here today. I'd just like to confirm that you can see our starting screen okay. Coastal GasLink project update for the city of Dawson Creek correctly on your screen.
Yes, it's there, Heather.
Okay, wonderful. Before I get started, of course, I will do a brief introduction for our team, but just to help facilitate any possible bandwidth issues, I will ask members of the Coastal GasLink team to turn off their cameras and put themselves on mute for the time being, just to make sure we can properly and safely deliver the presentation without any technology challenges. So thank you. All right, well, as we mentioned, we are happy to appear virtually here with an update on the Coastal GasLink pipeline project. I would also like to thank the administration team for your support in helping us deliver our project update today. With me on the call, not only do you have myself, as Mayor Bumstead mentioned, we do have Kyle Giddens, manager of our public affairs team. We do also have Melanie Shandrak, one of our project engineers for our Work Package 1 pipeline construction. We also have Bill Taylor joining us. He's the assistant construction manager at our Wild Lake compressor station. And we also have a member of our team named Sean Lashers, operation manager at our Wild Lake compressor station as well. As we mentioned, we appreciate the opportunity to be here virtually with you today. Over the past year, our team has been committed to providing monthly construction updates being received by many of you in the room today. While we've remained heavily engaged with you on the successful implementation of our COVID management plans, it's not all that we've been up to. Over the winter, we hit some pretty remarkable milestones on all areas of our project, many of which we've seen right here in the Peace region. Today, we are here to review all of our overall project activity, providing a snapshot into the work taking place here within the Peace River Regional District. This also includes a deeper look into our anticipated summer construction plans within the area. We're also going to take this opportunity to share our anticipated goals for 2021. And most importantly, our team that we brought here today is here to help answer any questions that your team may have. So on the next slide here, you can see that Coastal GasLink is being built and will be operated by TC Energy. TC Energy is a Calgary-based company and one of North America's largest natural gas pipeline networks with over 90,000 kilometers of pipelines. Coastal GasLink, of course, is our most significant investment in British Columbia. We continue to advance investments in projects that support our global efforts in reducing methane and GHG emissions, expanding renewables, and of course, supporting critical research. We believe that we have a critical role to play in delivering responsibly produced energy. As we head to the next slide, you'll see here a visual of our project overview. And by now, many of you are familiar with our project scope, so I won't spend too much time on this slide. But at approximately 670 kilometers in length, the Coastal GasLink pipeline project will safely deliver natural gas across northern BC. After Coastal GasLink delivers the natural gas from Dawson Creek area to a facility near Kitimat, LNG Canada will then prepare it for export to global markets. We refer to sections 1 and 2 of the project that are located right here within the Peace River Regional District, as demonstrated on the right-hand side of the map. On the next slide here, we cover a few of the significant 2020 milestones that we achieved. And despite the global pandemic in 2020, we were able to safely mobilize last summer to begin pipe welding and installation across the route. In 2020, we did hit some pretty remarkable milestones, including having completed 83% of the clearing. We also lowered in and buried approximately 125 kilometers of pipe. We did hit a personnel peak of over 4,000 workers in the fall. And last year we donated over $787,000 back into communities. This, of course, was a collaborative effort between project staff, personnel, local businesses, and communities. Your community's feedback was integral in the development of our plans to construct the pipeline in a manner that demonstrates a commitment to safety and respect for all people, communities, and the environment. Starting in 2021, construction looked a little different with the public health order that came into place. Our teams of safety and medical experts worked closely with our construction teams and focused on finalizing a comprehensive plan for a staged resumption of construction in accordance with Dr. Bonnie Henry and, of course, Northern Health guidance. What this meant is that we prioritized completing seasonally critical activities, but we couldn't fully remobilize. Working with the Public Health Authority and Northern Health, and then of course our prime contractors, we were able to demonstrate our commitment to safety within the communities with a robust construction restart plan. We are looking forward to safely resuming full project construction this summer. Just this past week, we had less than 2,000 workers mobilized to site, and this number will continue to increase as we anticipate about 4,000 personnel on the project by this fall. Now more than ever, Coastal GasLink is vital to the long-term prosperity of northern BC and Canada, and we are proud to be part of a healthy economic recovery. On our next slide, we've captured here some of the 2020 project milestones that we've achieved within the first 6 to 7 months of construction this year. As we mentioned, Coastal GasLink was impacted by the PHO restart order that was placed on several projects located within the Northern Health region. This effectively halted construction for the past several months, and we really were only to carry on with a very limited workforce. The order, however, has since been lifted, and we are excited to share that this means that our workforce numbers are no longer constrained and we're able to fully resume construction activities this summer. We're also still abiding by the industrial camps order and keeping the health and safety of our workers and communities at the forefront. Happy to share that we've achieved about 43% of overall completion on the project to date. Despite the restrictions for the first part of the year, we've seen some milestones since January. Something that we're very excited about and very happy to share was that on March 29th, we achieved receiving over 692,000 kilometers of line pipe delivered across 16 of our stockpile sites for our project. This was done on time, on budget, and meeting both project quality and safety requirements. In fact, we had 0 safety incidents associated with this activity. This line pipe delivery itself was the result of one of the largest pipe orders that TC Energy has done to date, and one of the longest supply chain routes with suppliers located in 3 different continents and varying in their complexity from processes, logistics, and then of course trying to complete this under the COVID-19 impact. This was a very big accomplishment for Coastal GasLink and our pipe suppliers. We could have not completed this effort without everyone's hard work, diligence, and dedication. We'd also like to mention that Section 8 continues to be our most challenging section for construction as the project passes through the coastal mountains. Ledcor Heisla Limited Partnership joined the Coastal GasLink project team earlier in May to lead construction work on the western portion of Section 8, while Macro Speakapeg Joint Venture continues to lead construction on the eastern portion of Section 8. Another note that I'd like to highlight is that more specifically within the Peace region, the construction team was able to complete 100% of the clearing in Work Package 1. So across the route, we will see a full push to complete all of the clearing and continue with getting pipe in the ground. In some sections already, welding crews have begun to mobilize and kickstart pipe assembly for activity. I will now take a moment to focus on the project progress made located within Work Package 1. And so for those of you that aren't quite as familiar with Work Package 1, we consider this from the Groundbridge area and heading west towards McLeod Lake. So our pipeline activities for 2021 have included, of course, continuing with our environmental and monitoring, which included sediment and erosion control. As mentioned, we cleared 100% of the right-of-way, and we also were able to place over 80 kilometers of pipe in the ground. We also did make significant headway with our Murray River crossing, and I will touch on this a little later in a few slides. Also located within Work Package 1 is the Wild Lake Compressor Station. We're happy to share that over the past months, we've received all of the turbo compressor packages. We've completed the foundation work required for housing the compressor units, and we're continuing with environmental monitoring activities. As of the end of May, we saw approximately 360 personnel working on both the pipeline and Wild Lake facility. Both teams were leveraging a blend of local hotels and rentals paired with lodge use for their accommodations. The next few slides here are going to have a few photos of some of the local construction activity to showcase the great progress that we've made to date. On the left-hand side here, you'll see a stretch of pipe being lowered into the ground. And on the right-hand side here is a photo of us completing our tie-ins, including final welding and coating. The next slide here is an aerial photo of the Murray River HDD activity. We've been actively working on the Murray River water crossing over the past few months, actually 190 days to be more specific. What you're looking at here is the pipeline right-of-way entry and exit sides of the water, more so the river. The side closest to you that you see here showcases a laydown yard just before the drill pad workspace. We are happy to share that as of last Friday, our team did successfully complete this 1,300 meter long crossing, as I mentioned, over the last 190 days. Trenchless watercourse crossings are definitely one of the most technical challenging aspects of pipelining. One item that I would like to highlight here in the photo is that you'll notice that there's no impact to the flow of the river. The new technologies and engineering techniques allow pipelines like Coastal GasLink to safely be installed below a riverbed. The next slide here is a very recent photo from our Wild Lake Compressor Station site. As we mentioned this fall, we did complete the piling work. A few of you may remember that this work did require over 2,200 piles to be installed over the course of several months. Our construction efforts over the winter have included cement and foundation work, and they also continue to receive deliveries for the ancillary buildings and compressor units themselves. On the next slide, we cover, I'm going to review a little bit of what we're looking to achieve in 2021. We have covered quite a bit of ground this far, and we've got significant momentum heading into 2021. Within the Peace region, our teams are ramping up for full summer construction to make significant headway with not only having just wrapped up, of course, the Murray River HDD, but we're also looking at completing the Secunca River HDD efforts as well. Our goal is to get an additional 50 kilometers of pipe in the ground, and to move forward with some cleanup and reclamation activities for about 65 kilometers of the route in Work Package 1. To help us hit these goals, we anticipate hitting a peak workforce of approximately 870 workers by September. At Wild Lake, we're looking to continue to receive materials associated with the ancillary buildings. We're looking to establish the 3 compressor unit buildings themselves, and we're also preparing for the internal pipe work required as well. For our summer construction program at Wild Lake, we anticipate hitting a peak workforce of approximately 180 personnel staying at Wild Lake, leveraging the Sonata Lodge. We're also anticipating another 30 members of our construction team leveraging local hotels and long-term rentals in Dawson Creek. On the next slide here, we do want to review a few key components of our safety. Of course, we have not been able to move forward with construction this past year without our commitment to safety under the pandemic landscape. And truly, our commitment to safety is our #1 value. There is no manual for how to build a pipeline during the pandemic, but we continuously adapt our plans and add more safety measures to protect our workers, their families, and communities. We've held bi-weekly COVID information sessions offered virtually to all local and Indigenous governments across northern BC. Last week was our 11th session. Our testing program, of course, is an important part of our COVID management plans. We've conducted over 4,000 PCR swab tests in 2001. And as of the end of May, we've added rapid antigen testing to our program and have completed over 2,000 tests within the first 2 weeks of the program. We're happy that this enables us to test more frequently. We're continuing the vaccinations on behalf of Northern Health, and at this time, we have over 1,000 workers that have received their first dose of the vaccine to date, and about 90 have received their second dose at our clinics. Many, of course, have received vaccines in their home communities, and we have continuously encouraged vaccinations among our workforce. So whether it's been adding additional medical expertise where needed, ensuring we're pre-screening our workers coming to the region, or the daily symptom checks or testing, it's all part of our Zero is Real safety mandate. We are proud to be a part of BC's healthy economic recovery. These opportunities will bring benefits to British Columbia and Canada and can help drive the economic recovery in northern BC. Construction jobs are, of course, a part of this, and we also recognize the $1.25 billion that were awarded in Indigenous and local contracting opportunities. In the longer term, Coastal GasLink will become one of the largest private property taxpayers in the north, with over $21 million paid to local governments, hospital districts, and school districts annually. We, of course, have our project agreements with over 20 First Nations across the corridor that will be providing long-term benefits for decades to come. And for those of you that haven't had a chance to visit yet, we have launched our virtual open house. This is another tool to share information during a challenging time when, of course, we can't be there in person like we would like to, or be chatting with you over a cup of coffee. We're also missing seeing you at local events as well. This tool, we're looking to leverage this tool, of course, to receive important feedback and to ensure we're listening and responding to the public. It's another venue for Indigenous and local communities and, of course, the general public to remain informed and up to date with our ongoing project activities. We're also looking to maintain this platform to be able to provide information on local benefits, contracting, and employment opportunities. These will also include training incentives and community investments and current construction progress made to date. We also have this really neat video that includes a full flyover video that we encourage you to watch as well. Of course, as we've mentioned earlier in the presentation, in 2020, we were able to donate almost $800,000 back to communities along the route. This year, we are committed to maintaining our commitment to creating a strong and vibrant communities and leaving a larger lasting impact in all the communities along our route. Our team, of course, has started meeting with several of you already to learn more about the possible community investment opportunities in your area. We've continued to sponsor events and invest in projects that align with our giving criteria and supporting partnerships in safety, community, the environment, and of course, education. We also have an employee giving program called Empower. and it was a strong emphasis over the last year and will continue to be a focus this year as well. I won't read through this full slide in detail, but noted here, you'll see some of the partnerships between our projects and initiatives within the City of Dawson Creek. We can't stress this enough, but legacy is an absolute theme on our project. In closing, we'd like to restate our commitment to creating a legacy of safety and respect for communities and the environment. What's reflected here on this slide is what we expect for the culture, attitude, and performance of each and every person working on our project. Our goal is to set a new standard for project delivery that will leave a legacy for British Columbians for decades to come. It means building a project that Canadians can be proud of with safety at the forefront, global sustainability in view, and excellence in engineering and construction right here in our own backyard. This is the legacy that we want to leave when construction of this project is completed. The City of Dawson Creek remains an important community for TC Energy, and we are committed to providing long-term opportunities where we all work, live, and play. I'm also pleased to introduce to you our team member, Sean Lashers, Dawson Creek resident and member of the facility management team located at our Wild Lake compressor station. We're looking forward to having Sean on the ground supporting our ongoing and future recruitment efforts locally. Before we head off into the question and answer portion of our presentation, I now invite Sean to turn on his camera and give us a quick wave hello. Thank you, Sean. And as you know, our team is always available should you have any questions or concerns. And of course, we now open the floor to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And so to council, questions, comments? Councillor Javetkov.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, do you have any open flares incorporated into the project on the compressor sites or along the pipeline anywhere?
Well, that's a really great question, Councillor. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to defer to our subject matter experts at the Wild Lake compressor station. Bill Taylor, is there any information that you can share to support that response?
We don't have any open flares here. What we have is some EVCs, which are emission venting controls. They're just small methane burners, basically. So there's no open flares here burning off gas at any time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, anything further? So I guess obviously we've had the conversation and discussion about the project over the last probably 6 or 7 months, and I think it's still for me the push to find ways for that local engagement into now Wild Lake. I think Coastal has moved its way from the Groundbirch kickoff location at Wild Lake into the Chetwynd-Sekunka area, which really would not impact our community or local businesses in any way at this point. And so I just re-emphasize that again. And I think honestly, for me, the ongoing concern, as I voiced last year, was how do we just got to keep working away trying to find those opportunities for our local businesses through to the prime contractors who are awarded the contracts to try to facilitate that. And accommodation obviously is one area of it, and we get the support from the team itself that are here working on the project in the long term. But that's the piece to me, is just trying to always work towards finding those opportunities for our local businesses, and we've had that conversation over the last 7 or 8 months.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for those comments. Absolutely, Your Worship, it's something that we've been engaging with you directly on, over the past several months and really years into our engagement as well for this project, and something that we continue to keep a pulse on in particular. something that we will continue to move the conversations forward with. I know as we work with our prime contractor, ACON, to find those gaps or areas where we can connect locals, that's something that we continue to leverage our project management team as well. And, I would like to share one example recently, and if there's more information on this that I can pass along, I did have the team members from ACON actually reach out directly, sharing that some of their job postings that they had shared on LinkedIn weren't quite gathering some of the activity that they were hoping with, or I guess receiving resumes for some key roles. So they did pass along a bit of a one-pager that I was able to share with the local Chamber of Commerce in Dawson Creek for them to share. And again, just connecting some of those locals with some of those opportunities. So if there's an opportunity for me to share that document with Mayor and Council as well, I'd be more than happy to do so.
I think it's more of a structural issue that, to me, as I've kind of experienced this, because we've looked forward to the coastal project with anticipation on LNG Canada for a very, very long time, and and the environmental assessment certificate and the permit that TC Energy went through that entire process, seeking the permit from the province to be able to move forward with the project, and it's peppered with local procurement, training, development opportunities for local businesses. But the disconnect occurs once the contract is awarded, in my view, and TC make the commitment, but once the contract is awarded to the prime, whether it be ACON for the Wild Lake or Solaris for stage 1 and 2 or Macro or Somerville ACON or whoever, it's up to them to execute upon getting the project built, and there's nothing that's built into the contract that says there's a requirement, onus on them to source local or even define local or define how that will be structured. And I guess that's the structural piece to me in terms of the permitting process through the environmental assessment certificate that you guys go through, or any company goes through, and you make that commitment, and then, as I say, to me, then as we experience, I certainly did feel that with the first stage when Solaris were doing coastal, there was just minimal interaction with our community, and whether that's a lack of capacity in our community or a lack of engagement or vice versa, but there's, that's the difficulty to me.
Hi, Your Worship, Kyle Giddens here. Just wanted to weigh in, of course, and we've had this conversation and an ongoing and important one, I think, and just wanted to point out for council a couple of items that it is actually, in fact, part of our contracts that our prime contractors are required to put forward an Indigenous and local and diverse participation plan, and that's part of their evaluation, and then we refine that with them going forward. So those plans tell us how they are going to procure those local opportunities. And so one of the things Coastal GasLink had built a vendor registry historically with over 800 businesses from across the north. That was shared with the prime contractors, and ACON in particular, for example, recently confirmed that they found businesses that they never would have found otherwise if we hadn't gone through that process. So that's a part of it, but also that it is about that ongoing engagement, who's available, what their capacity is. I would say that, there has been some struggles among Dawson Creek businesses in that competitive bid process. We don't say, you must, procure to business in X community. It's across the whole northern BC region is that local procurement. And certainly in the Peace region, there have been a lot of opportunities, Dawson Creek included. But, of course, it is a competitive process. So there are businesses throughout the region that are competing for work. Finding those opportunities, I know, are a continuous process to go through. There still are opportunities to come, I know, with ACON, and they're going through that process. And of course, the pipeline end of it, as Your Worship, you mentioned, it is heading a little bit further southwest into the Sekunka, but some Dawson Creek businesses are included in that work as well. We've appreciated especially the logistics component that Dawson Creek has played as several pipe yards within the community over the last several months for sure. That's been an important part of supporting the project. We also appreciate the use of the liquid waste facility, the city of Dawson Creek, because we do have a local contractor involved in that waste hauling. And these are things that those connections to communities are absolutely critical for our success and for the long term. And now that we have Sean located as a resident, continuing into that operational space, connecting those opportunities is really part of what we want to build for that long-term maintenance program and long-term employment program as we look to hire for the Wild Lake site.
Yeah, absolutely, Kyle. I think that to me is always been the point, right? We just want to make sure we create the connection to give our local businesses the opportunity to compete, and price, product, service, and all safety and all those things are what get you either into the game or not. And that to me is always, we appreciate that. We just want to make sure we give our local businesses the opportunity at having that opportunity to bid on some of that work. So I absolutely agree with you. Thank you. Anything further, Council? Listen, as always, I think we sincerely appreciate you guys coming and giving us an update on the regular basis that you do. And I think your commitment to community on a number of the initiatives that we've had over the years obviously speaks for itself. We really appreciate that. And thank you guys for being here today. And I look forward to catching up with Sean, and we'll have a cup of coffee and I'll be able to sway him our way, away from those TC Energy biases. Thank you so much, you guys. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us today, and to the team for helping coordinate this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you again. Have a great week. I don't think we have any request from TC. It was just an update on their stuff. Anything further, administration? But Blair?
Nothing, Your Worship.
Okay. Motion to adjourn? Oh, yeah, no, I don't want to do that anymore. No, we got one more to do, don't we? We have one more. We have one more item. I'm sorry, you're right. And that was that's in closed.
Yes.
Yeah. So we'll adjourn open, or no, we got to recess open, go to closed, and then deal with the final item of 8.2. Councillor Javetkov, Councillor Kemp, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And now we'll go to close because we